Sooner or later, every roster goes through changes. No team is immune to them, including Spirit, the organization with the biggest fan base in the CIS region. And whenever the Dragons make a roster move, it sparks endless debate within the community. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most controversial transfers in the organization's history. In September 2025, the Dragons signed tN1R. Since then, he's become one of the most divisive players in Counter-Strike. Some see him as a future star. Others believe he's overrated, inconsistent, and nowhere near the level required to play for Spirit. His critics have spent months repeating the same argument. Andre simply isn't good enough for this team. So, who's right? Don't forget to like and subscribe because you're watching CYBERSHOKE, and today we're going to tell the story of tN1R and find out how he became one of the most controversial players on Spirit. Guys, we've teamed up with Skinrave to bring you a massive promotion where you can get a free premium subscription on CYBERSHOKE. To claim it, simply sign up on the Skinrave website using the code CYBERSHOKE and make a deposit of $4 or more. Once you've met the requirements, your free premium subscription will appear in your inventory, ready to activate. You can also complete Skinrave-sponsored missions on CYBERSHOKE to earn tokens, which you can exchange for free skins and other awesome rewards. Huge thanks to Skinrave for supporting the channel. Be sure to claim your free reward while the promotion is still active, and enjoy the video. Andrei Tadarinovich was born in Belarus on February 14, 2001. As a child, he played football and even considered pursuing a professional career in the sport, but health issues eventually forced him to give up that dream. Like many players, tN1R's introduction to Counter-Strike followed a familiar path. His older brother put him in front of a computer when he was just 4 years old, and not long after, introduced him to the game. As he approached adulthood, our hero began to realize just how talented he was. Talented enough, in fact, to seriously consider a future in esports. At that point, Andre made a promise to himself. He would take every opportunity that came his way. At just 18 years old, he made his first appearance on HLTV with a mixed team called Poka Molodoi. Only a year later, some of the biggest organizations in Belarus had already started to take notice of tN1R. It's worth noting that before 2022, Andre changed teams frequently and never spent more than 6 months with any of them. Most were small CIS squads that achieved little and never climbed high in the HLTV rankings. During that period, tN1R even got the chance to play alongside Wonderful on Trasco, and at one point served as a stand-in for Nemiga, the most successful Belarusian organization in esports. Andre finally found a home in October 2022 when he joined Webster's, where he would spend an impressive 10 months. There, he gained valuable experience alongside Belarusian veterans Box and Lollipop. tN1R put up solid numbers with Webster's and eventually earned himself a promotion to Fours. You could say that Andre's career was progressing slowly but steadily, as each new team he joined was a step up from the last. But it was during his time with Fours that he became involved in an incident that could damage any player's reputation. In April 2024, tN1R's teammate Gokushima received an ESIC ban for match fixing. Such a violation is among the most serious offenses in professional Counter-Strike, casting doubt not only on the player involved, but also on his teammates. Erkan was handed a 2-year suspension from major events, and in the aftermath of the ban, the roster fell apart, leaving Andre without a team. But Andre had no intention of staying without a team for long. At that moment, Buster's organization Gun5 was looking to refresh its roster. Andre personally reached out to Overdrive with his candidacy and eventually secured a spot on the team. In his new environment, tN1R made a real breakthrough. His usual rating of around 1.0 suddenly jumped up to a star level 1.25. In an interview with Eric Shokov, Andre explained this jump by saying that during his time with Fours, he had grown not only as a player, but also as a person. When I joined Gun5, I just felt like I was a step above these guys. Because of that, my confidence started to grow, along with my ego, within reasonable limits of course. There's a reason people say Counter-Strike is a game of confidence. By the beginning of 2025, the talented rifler had started attracting interest from bigger organizations. According to tN1R himself, he received offers not only from CIS teams, but also from Europe. However, he didn't seriously consider them, as his English wasn't strong enough. But when Heroic came knocking, a team that had recently been ranked 8th in the world, Andre realized he couldn't pass up the opportunity. He pushed past his concerns about the language barrier and made it clear that he was interested. tN1R was such an attractive prospect that the organization didn't even bother holding trials. The entire transfer was completed in a single night. In the evening, Andre agreed to the move, and by the next morning, he'd already been sold to Heroic. It was there that one of the most important chapters of his career began. The move to Heroic wasn't just another step up for tN1R, it was a leap out of his comfort zone. Throughout his entire career, Andre had only played in CIS lineups, where communication was exclusively in Russian. Now, however, he found himself alongside 4 European teammates, each speaking English with a different accent. tN1R immediately signed up for language classes, but the first few months were difficult. He later admitted that he often struggled to fully understand what was being communicated around him. As a result, he was forced to rely primarily on his raw skill, which he had plenty of. Almost immediately, Andre began showing exactly why Heroic had paid $300,000 for him. tN1R helped the team reach the LAN stage of their very first tournament together, and the organization's social media team even started calling him the next Donk. tN1R's Tier 1 debut came at the end of January at IEM Katowice. Heroic failed to reach the main stage, but Andre still finished as the team's best player across all 3 matches, posting an impressive average rating of 1.22. The following months were relatively stable. Until May, Heroic mostly competed in online qualifiers and Tier 2 events, with their only major appearance coming at ESL Pro League. Andre continued putting up strong numbers, and analysts began taking notice. Overdrive was confident that a bigger organization would come for him during the off-season, while Danish analyst Pimp believed tN1R had what it took to break into the top 20 players in the world. And according to Thorin, the Belarusian was already ahead of Kyosuke in terms of individual skill. Soon after, Andre achieved a unique milestone. He became the first Belarusian player ever to qualify for a major. This happened in Austin, where tN1R delivered a solid performance, helped his team reach Stage 2, and sparked speculation throughout the community about which organization would buy out his contract after the season. However, after the summer break, Andre remained with Heroic, although he admitted that he would only be able to reach his full potential on a team that shared his native language and CIS mentality. I sometimes miss healthy negativity in the team. Communication also plays a huge role. I would gladly return to my native language, but for now, it is what it is. In my native language, I feel much more comfortable. You have more functionality. You can give much more detailed information, make specific requests during the game, and coordination becomes much easier. And then, in August, right in the middle of a tournament, a major insider report shook the entire community. It revealed that tN1R's contract included an exclusive buyout clause for one specific team. And that team, as you may have already guessed, was Spirit. By that point, the Dragons had already replaced Magix with Zwei and had just won a prestigious tournament in Cologne. But circumstances soon changed once again when Zontix was forced to leave the team. That's when Spirit's management decided to invest in firepower and buy tN1R's contract from Heroic. The community was convinced that Andre, coming off 2 outstanding seasons, was the missing piece that Spirit needed. tN1R's final tournament with Heroic was the Esports World Cup. Interestingly, he even knocked out his future team and performed well in head-to-head duels against Donk. However, his teammates fell short in the quarterfinals, bringing their run at the event to an end. Just a few days later, Spirit officially announced the signing of tN1R. According to reports, the organization paid around $1.5 million for the transfer, and expectations for the new roster were enormous. Analysts predicted that Spirit could be entering a dominant era, or at the very least, become a consistent challenger to the best teams in the world, including Vitality. Within the organization, Andre received a warm welcome, and his new teammates spoke highly of him. However, after joining the Dragons, tN1R's individual numbers began to decline. While he posted posted a strong 1.23 rating at his final event with Heroic, he failed to maintain even a 1.0 rating across his first 2 tournaments with Spirit. Still, Andre didn't seem concerned. He insisted that he had never aimed to be the team's main star, adding that many of his potential frags were often taken by his teammates. Unfortunately, not all fans shared that perspective. After IEM Chengdu, where tN1R delivered a mixed performance against Falcons and the Mongols, the entire team came under heavy criticism, and Andre's form was labeled a disappointment. tN1R took the backlash rather calmly. Here's what he said after the elimination. "Bad performance from me in this event. Nothing much to say. I'll just say this. You can criticize me all you want. I don't care. You'll all change your opinions later anyway." The final event before the major in Hungary also ended in disappointment for Spirit. At Blast Rivals, they lost to Falcons and Vitality. The community continued to criticize the Dragons, while analysts increasingly questioned the team's true strength. Thornton, for example, even suggested that Spirit might fail to reach the playoffs at the major. Meanwhile, analyst Vu identified tN1R and Zwei as the team's biggest problems. The major in Budapest was not a breakthrough event for Andre. While he didn't struggle nearly as much as he had in Chengdu or at Blast Rivals, he still faded in the decisive match against Vitality, just like the rest of the team, with the exception of Donk. Shortly after the major, sources close to Spirit confirmed that roster changes were only a matter of time. At the same time, tN1R publicly stated that he had no intention of leaving and felt comfortable within the team. During the offseason, Spirit parted ways with newcomer Zwei and in-game leader Chopper, while Magix and Zontix were brought back. Andre was convinced that these changes would create more space for him across the map and allow him to return to the aggressive style he had shown during his time with Heroic. At the start of the following year, tN1R and the rest of the Spirit roster continued to struggle for consistency. While the Dragons were still adapting to Magix in the captain role, Andre was posting underwhelming numbers. For many fans, this was difficult to understand. They wanted immediate results, which is why an early playoff exit at Blast Bounty and a third-place finish at IEM Krakow were met with heavy criticism. What came next, however, was something that even Spirit's fans probably didn't expect. Before ESL Pro League, the roster took a short break from competition and isolated themselves at a boot camp. There, Spirit were practicing for 10 to 12 hours a day, and many believe that such an intense schedule would help the team build chemistry more quickly. It's also important to understand that Spirit entered the event as clear favorites. Na'Vi hadn't reached peak form yet, Astralis had recently made several roster changes, and both Aurora and FUT were considered a tier below. Their only real competition appeared to be Mouse, a team Spirit had historically matched up well against. But in the playoffs, the Dragons suffered a one-sided defeat to Astralis. The match was widely described as one of the worst performances in the organization's history, and the backlash crossed every possible line. Once again, tN1R was accused of inconsistency and labeled a disappointment. Unfortunately for Spirit, the loss to Astralis was followed by another failure. At Blast Rotterdam, they failed to even reach the playoffs, losing a decisive match to the Mongols, who were playing without a coach. Donk tried to carry the team almost single-handedly, but at that tournament it felt as if everyone else had disappeared. Just consider that while tN1R and Zontix struggled with ratings below 0.9, Daniil posted a phenomenal 1.61. By this point, the community, which had expected Spirit to win nearly every tournament, was no longer willing to accept these results. Fans demanded some kind of roster change to put the team back on the path to victory. And those changes didn't take long to arrive. In early April, Coach Halley decided to step away temporarily to recover from burnout, and Academy coach Sotfik was brought in as his replacement. This change was especially important for tN1R. Many critics argue that Halley was partly responsible for Andre's difficult adaptation, and the question now was whether Sotfik could change that. Spirit played 2 events with their new coach, IEM Rio and PGL Astana. The Brazilian tournament didn't start on a positive note. In their very first match, the Dragons were completely dismantled by Falcons, with tN1R posting an unacceptable 0.41 rating. The struggles continued in the following round, as Spirit somehow dropped a map to Red Canids, a team ranked just 67th in the world. At that point, the team's reputation was under serious pressure. Not only were the results results no longer matching those of a consistent Tier 1 contender, but a rumor also began circulating that Spirit had considered making tN1R the in-game leader, and that he had allegedly declined out of fear, forcing the organization to urgently bring back Magix. It felt as though fans had already accepted that the coaching change wouldn't fix anything, and that Spirit were on the verge of crashing out of the tournament entirely. But then, everything changed. Spirit fought their way into the playoffs, where they first defeated Mouse and then took revenge against Falcons. And in those matches, the driving force behind the team wasn't Donk or Shiro, it was tN1R. And on top of that, Andre completely won over the Brazilian crowd by walking onto the stage wearing the jersey of Brazil's national football team. In the end, the Dragons finished second in Rio, losing the grand final to you-know-who. And just like that, tN1R's reputation within the community completely flipped. At PGL Astana, expectations were high, and fortunately for Spirit, they lived up to them without much trouble. Andre finished as the second highest rated player in the grand final, and lifted the first major trophy of his career.
As he tries to chase tN1R over towards the ramp, that's all it takes. Team Spirit, 13-10, map 3.
They make it a 3-0. They fight. It goes all the way to the end.
Today, tN1R can confidently be called one of the most controversial players in Spirit's history. On one hand, he overcame heavy criticism and helped his team to a major trophy. On the other, his adaptation took a long time, and rumors within the community suggest that Andre was considered for the IGL role, but backed out at the last moment due to fear. But what do you guys think? Can the Belarusian finally lead Spirit to a major title, or was this comeback nothing more than a temporary surge in form? Let's talk about it in the comments. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the best esports content. See you next time.